During incidents, there may be a need for notifying, coordinating, and sharing information with external parties. This video examines the operational use of collaboration in RAYVN. The collaboration network, meaning who your business should have the opportunity to collaborate with during events, is defined by an administrator in the account settings. All stakeholder connections are mutual, which means that we can take initiative to notify our stakeholder and mobilize them during an incident, and vice versa. In this video, we'll first take a look at how we mobilize a stakeholder, before we'll take a look at what it looks like if they mobilize us. We're now in the active log, and we need to connect with an external party to inform them of what's going on and start collaborating with them. We go to the tab for stakeholders. Here, the overview of all active stakeholders that we have mobilized through the event will be shown. Right now, there are no current active stakeholders. We select Mobilize Stakeholder, and the complete list of all registered stakeholders will be listed. We tick off the stakeholders we want to mobilize and finish by choosing Mobilize Stakeholders. When we do so, we will be asked to confirm that we actually want to mobilize, because this will trigger a notification on the stakeholder's end. If we then choose Mobilize, a 4-channel notification will be sent to defined personnel in the stakeholder's account. Now the notification has gone out, and we are waiting for a response to the stakeholder invitation we've sent. Until the external stakeholders accept the invitation, it will be marked with Awaiting Response, in addition to having a yellow color. As soon as the stakeholder approves the request, the stakeholder will be listed as green and receive the status Participating. We are now connected and can start sharing information between our log and their log. We will now look at how it looks if other stakeholders mobilize us and how we can accept a stakeholder invitation. The invitation will be notified through 4 channels, and this notification will only go out to selected personnel, which is set up by the administrators. Recipients of the notification will see that there is now a red bar at the top of the screen. Based on this bar, we can now read which stakeholders has sent us the request and what kind of event the request is regarding. We can click on Handle Request to take a closer look at the invitation. To accept the request, we have 3 options. First off, we can either start a completely new log that automatically uses the same name as the stakeholder that sent us the invitation. We will then open an empty log without personnel, tasks, and documents, but with the new collaboration link active. Secondly, we can add a stakeholder request to an already existing log in our account. This is a natural alternative if we also have an ongoing log. And lastly, we can also select to create a new log, but from a template. Here, we can get a list of all defined log templates, and then we will start a log with the content from one of these. The teams associated with the template will be notified, and all tasks and documents will be available immediately. In this instance, we can choose the third alternative. The new log is now active, and when we access it and activate stakeholders, we can now see that the example stakeholder is active. We can now start sharing information with this stakeholder. Connecting with stakeholders does not mean that the stakeholder gain access to our log. We still have to actively choose the content that we want to share and select who we want to share it to. Everything in the log feed can be shared with stakeholders. This includes, among other things, text, files, meeting summaries, and reports. To the right of each log entry, we find the option to share. If we select the stakeholders as recipients, we can now differentiate between non-mobilized stakeholders and mobilized stakeholders. Stakeholders with whom we have an active connection will be shown as green. We select the stakeholder or stakeholders that we want to share information with and press Share. If we share to any active stakeholders, the log entry will be shared directly to their own log feed. If, on the other hand, we choose to share with a non-mobilized stakeholder, the log entry will be shared and sent to their notification center. As soon as we've shared a log entry with a stakeholder, we see that the log entry changes slightly. An icon will appear that indicates that it has been shared and to whom it has been shared. If we hover the mouse over it, we can also read out the information and exact time of when this was done. If a stakeholder shares a log entry with us, it will be marked clearly with a blue frame so that we can easily distinguish between internal and external log entries. This frame will contain information about the name of the stakeholder and which individual has shared the information. in addition to the date and timestamp of the sharing. The status board will also be shared with stakeholders. As soon as we connect with external parties, this becomes a common board where all parties can contribute with information. This is done so that the platform will contribute to build a common understanding of the situation between the stakeholders. Only statuses attached to the board will be shared, and this is done automatically. So any status that is not attached will only be visible for us. Each stakeholder will have their own section on the board, and every status will be updated with information of when they were last updated. If we want to request a status update from one or more of our own stakeholders, we can do so. Create the status that we want to have information about and select Request Status. We will then be able to choose which one of the active stakeholders we want this information from. As soon as we've selected our stakeholder, the status becomes yellow and we can no longer fill in this information. This is because we're now waiting for them to fill in this information for us. The status will then be sent specifically to the stakeholder that we chose, and they will have to update to fill in the value of the status. As soon as they've done so, we will see the updated status on our side. Reports can also be shared with stakeholders. All finished reports are published as PDF files in the log feed, and we can easily choose to share the entire log entry. This is done the same way that we share any other log entry. Select Share, and then select the relevant stakeholders. We can also do this directly from the Report section. Here we see an overview of all reports that we've worked with, in addition to already finalized reports. Only finalized reports can be shared. If we want to share a finalized report, we can click on it and then select Share. We then select our relevant stakeholders and select Share once more. We will always be able to read out who we've shared the report with, as you can see right here, and this will also be mentioned in the log feed. If internal stakeholders are set up in the account, you can mobilize them and communicate with them in the exact same way as other stakeholders. You can share log entries, reports, and status boards with them in the same way as any other stakeholder. To mobilize an internal stakeholder, go to the Stakeholder section and click Mobilize Stakeholders. Select the stakeholder in the same way you would select an external stakeholder and click Mobilize Stakeholders. If you have available internal and external stakeholders in your list, these will be separated in an internal and external section.